You know, there is this persistent myth about software development that Hollywood just loves to perpetuate. You've seen it.
Oh, I know exactly the one.
It's the scene where there's one genius, usually in a dark room, hoodie up, furiously typing.
Green text flying across the screen.
Exactly. Green text is flying everywhere. And then, boom, complex software just appears. They hack the mainframe or build an app in a single night.
The lone wolf hacker myth.
Yeah.
It's dramatic, but it's about as realistic as building a skyscraper with, a single person and a trowel.
Exactly. Anyone who has actually shipped code or even just managed a project with code knows the reality is, well, it's messy. It's not just typing syntax. It's this massive coordination headache. You have design, you have testing, debugging, documentation. It's a logistical nightmare.
It is. It really is. It's almost a supply chain problem as much as it is a logic problem.
Yeah.
You're moving these abstract ideas through a factory floor of logic, and things break at every single station.
And we've been throwing AI at this for a while now, haven't we? We have tools that write code for us, tools that generate images, tools to check for bugs.
Sure.
But the headache hasn't really gone away. It just feels like it's changed shape. So instead of arguing with the human junior developer, now I'm arguing with the prompt.
That is a very fair assessment.
Yeah.
I think that's largely because up until now, we've been optimizing the individual stations on that assembly line, but we haven't really fixed the factory floor itself.
Right.
We made the hammers faster, but the blueprints are still getting lost between stations.
That is the perfect lead-in to what we're unpacking today. We have a paper that asks a pretty radical and honestly a kind of skeptical-sounding question. What happens if you fire the humans, conceptually of course, and replace the entire software team with a squad of AI agents? And I don't mean one superbot that does it all. I mean a literal team.
A team, yeah.
Agents that have specific roles, and this is the crucial part, agents that talk to each other to solve problems.
It's a fascinating pivot. We are doing a deep dive into the paper titled ChatDev, Communicative Agents for Software Development.
And before we get into the weeds, I want to establish that this isn't just, some theoretical blog post from a startup trying to sell us tokens.
No, this is legitimate peer-reviewed research. The lead author is Chen Qin, and he's heading up a team of 13 researchers.
13, wow.
The work was originally submitted back in July 2023, but the version we're breaking down today is version 5, which came out just recently, June 5th, 2024.
So this is the latest iteration. It's fresh.
It is. And to give you a sense of the weight behind this, it was accepted to ACL 2024.
ACL, the Association for Computational Linguistics.
Exactly. That is a top-tier venue. In the world of natural language processing, getting published there is a real stamp of approval. It means you have the data to back up your claims.
Okay, so we have credible researchers arguing that the future of coding isn't a better autocomplete, but a virtual chat room.
Pretty much.
So our mission today is to look under the hood of this ChatDev framework. We need to understand two big concepts that jumped out at me: chat chains and something called communicative dehallucination.
Which is quite a term. It sounds like a medical procedure.
It does. Nurse, prep the patient for communicative dehallucination. But we need to figure out if this is just another way to write Python scripts or if it's actually a new way to organize intelligence. Because if this works, it claims to solve the waterfall problem that has plagued software dev for 50 years.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so let's start with that problem. The paper spends a good amount of time critiquing the status quo, specifically this waterfall model. Now, for anyone listening who might be technical but not a project manager, can you lay out the landscape here? Why is the waterfall model the villain in this story?
Well, the waterfall model is the traditional linear way of building things. You can just think of gravity. Water flows down.
Right.
So you start with requirements and design at the very top. Once that's done, you move to coding. Once that's done, you move to testing. It's strictly sequential.
Which sounds logical on paper. You don't build the roof before you pour the foundation. You can't test code that hasn't been written.
Sure, it makes logical sense. But the problem comes up when you try to apply deep learning to this process. The paper points out that, up until now, we've been using AI to automate specific phases in isolation.
Okay.
So you might have a large language model, an LLM, that is fine-tuned to be an amazing coder. It knows every Python library in existence.
Okay. So I have a coding bot.
You have a coding bot.
Right.
But then you have a completely different model, or at least a completely different prompt structure, handling the design phase.
Right.
And maybe a third tool handling testing. The paper argues that because these phases are handled separately, they require unique designs.
Unique designs. So you mean the AI architecture for the designer is fundamentally different from the coder?
Exactly. They are specialized tools. And because they're specialized and crucially isolated, you hit what the authors call technical inconsistencies.
Let me see if I can frame this with an analogy, because technical inconsistencies sounds a bit dry. Imagine you're building a house. You hire an architect who speaks only French and a builder who speaks only Japanese. They are both brilliant at their jobs. The blueprints are perfect. The bricklaying is perfect. But they can't talk to each other.
That is a very, very close analogy.
So the architect draws a door, slides the blueprint under the wall to the builder. The builder looks at it, maybe misinterprets a metric measurement for imperial, builds it, and then walks away. Then the inspector comes in, who maybe speaks German, and fails the whole project because the door is 2 inches too narrow.
That is the fragmentation trap. The paper describes the result as a fragmented and ineffective development process. You have these islands of intelligence, the design island, the coding island, but the context is lost when you jump between them.
And in software, context is absolutely everything.
Yeah.
If the coder doesn't understand why the designer chose a certain database structure, they might write really efficient code that completely misses the user's goal.
Precisely. And that's where the inconsistencies come from. It's not that the code is bad, like a syntax error. It's that the code doesn't match the design intent.
Right.
The AI tools we have now are great at the how to write a loop, how to render a button. They're often terrible at the why. Why are we building this button here?
Because they're isolated. They aren't sharing a brain. They're just executing orders in a vacuum.
Right. So the researchers realized that making the individual models bigger or faster wasn't going to solve this. They needed to solve the connection problem. They didn't need a better tool. They needed a better system.
Which brings us to ChatDev, the virtual office. Now, define this for me. The paper calls it a chat-powered software development framework. My skepticism radar pings a bit there because chat-powered usually means a frustrating customer service bot that can't understand cancel subscription. But this is different.
Very different. This isn't a chatbot you talk to. This is a system where the bots talk to each other. The core concept here is specialized agents.
Break that down for me. Who are these agents?
Well, instead of asking one giant LLM like GPT-4 to build me a snake game and just hoping it remembers all the rules, ChatDev spins up a team. It assigns roles. You have an agent acting as the CEO. An agent is the CTO, a programmer, a reviewer, and a tester.
Okay, so they're role-playing. It's like Dungeons & Dragons, but for software engineering.
Essentially, yes. But they are role-playing with very strict boundaries. And this is where the first major innovation comes in, the chat chain.
The chat chain. The abstract highlights this heavily. What is it? Is it just a log of their chat?
No, it's much more active than that. Think of the chat chain as the corporate workflow or the rules of engagement.
Okay.
If you just put 5 AI agents in a chat room and said build software, it would be chaos. They'd talk over each other, or they'd all try to write code at once, or the CEO would start debugging while the tester tries to design the logo.
It would be a hallucination festival.
Right. The chat chain breaks the complex task, let's say design a Gomoku game, into atomic subtasks. It enforces that waterfall structure, but makes it collaborative.
So it forces a meeting.
Yeah.
It basically puts a meeting on their calendar.
It forces a specific type of meeting. The chat chain guides what they communicate. It says, right now, we are in the design phase. You need to discuss the specifications.
And this happens via multi-turn dialogues, right? That's the phrase from the paper.
Yes, and that distinction is crucial. It's not a command. It's not CEO orders CPO. It's a dialogue. The CPO might say, we should use Python because it has great libraries for this. The CEO might ask, is that scalable? The CPO responds. They go back and forth until they actually reach a consensus.
That's interesting. So they are simulating the negotiation that happens in a real office. They aren't just retrieving data. They are refining ideas.
Exactly. And once they agree on the design, the chat chain moves the process to the next link in the chain, coding. Now, the CPO hands off to the CTO and the programmer.
So the fragmentation we talked about earlier, the architect sliding the blueprint under the door, is solved because the context is passed along the chain conversationally?
That's the theory. Because the agents are talking their way through the design, the coding, and the testing phases, the logic just flows with them. The programmer isn't guessing what the designer meant. The designer agent effectively briefed them.
But here's the thing. I have to push back a little here. We've all seen AI go off the rails. You get into a long conversation with an LLM, and eventually it starts forgetting things or just making things up.
Sure.
If you have a chain of agents talking to each other, isn't there a risk of a game of telephone? One agent hallucinates and the next one just amplifies it.
That is the single biggest risk with autonomous agents, the hallucination problem. If the designer hallucinates a library that doesn't exist, the coder will try to use it and fail. Or if the coder hallucinates a variable, the tester will crash.
So how does ChatDev stop that? If they're just chatting, couldn't they just chat themselves into a delusion?
So the paper introduces a specific mechanism to deal with exactly this. They call it communicative dehallucination.
Okay, let's unpack that. Communicative dehallucination. It sounds like they are staging an intervention.
The concept is very grounded in social psychology, actually. The chat chain controls what they talk about, the topic. Communicative dehallucination controls how they talk, the verification.
In what sense?
Well, the paper suggests that just letting them chat isn't enough. You need to structure the dialogue to catch errors.
Yeah.
And while the abstract is a bit high level, the practical application is a self-correction loop.
Okay.
Think of it like a peer review process that is mandatory before any decision is finalized.
Like a code review.
Exactly like a code review. So let's look at the coding phase. The programmer agent writes the code. In a normal solo AI model, that's the end. Here, the chat chain triggers a reviewer agent to look at the code.
And the reviewer's agent's sole job is to be critical.
To be the annoying guy who points out typos.
Yes. And if the reviewer finds a bug or a logic gap hallucination, it pushes it back to the programmer. They then enter a multi-turn dialogue specifically to dehallucinate the code. So the conversation might look like, reviewer says, hey, I see a variable here that isn't defined on line 40. Programmer says, oh, you're right, let me fix that.
Precisely. By forcing this back-and-forth verification before moving to the next phase, they filter out the hallucinations. The paper argues that this interaction structure is what allows them to maintain accuracy across these really complex tasks. It's a safeguard.
So the communicative dehallucination acts as a filter. It ensures that the information passing across that unified language-based communication bridge is actually true. It prevents the garbage in, garbage out problem by checking the garbage at the door.
Unified language-based communication. That is the key phrase from the paper. That's the glue that holds it all together.
It's really interesting because it treats talk as a form of computation. The processing power isn't just in the neural network, it's in the interaction between the networks.
That's a deep insight. The compute is happening in the conversation. The intelligence emerges from the friction between the agents.
Now, speaking of language, this is the part of the paper I found most surprising. You'd assume that if you have a bunch of computer programs talking to each other, they should just exchange JSON files or binary code.
Right, it's faster, it's precise.
So why bother with, hello, how are you? But ChatDev uses natural language like English for a lot of this.
It does. And the researchers actually analyzed the logs of these conversations to see when the agents used which language. And they found a very specific split.
What was the breakdown? Did they switch languages based on the task at hand?
You did. They found that utilizing natural language, so English, was specifically advantageous for this system design phase.
Why? Why not just use formal logic specifications? Wouldn't that be more precise?
Not necessarily. Design is inherently ambiguous. If I tell you make the game interface user-friendly, you can't code user-friendly, you have to interpret it.
Got it.
Natural language is fuzzy. It allows for brainstorming, for nuance, for describing abstract goals. The agents used English to align on the vision of the software.
Okay, that makes sense. English is for the why and the what. It allows for the fuzzy logic of creativity.
But when they moved to the debugging phase, the dynamic flipped. The paper found that communicating in programming language, actual snippets of code, and error logs was far more helpful.
Because at that point, fuzzy is bad. You don't want a poem about the bug.
Exactly. If the code crashes, you don't want a paragraph describing the error. You want the stack trace. You want precision. So that the agents naturally shifted to exchanging code to solve specific bugs.
So they are effectively bilingual. They switch between human and machine depending on the context.
In a sense, yes. And the paper frames this as a major finding. Linguistic communication establishes language as a unifying bridge.
It bridges the gap between the abstract idea, the design, and the concrete reality of the code.
And the fact that they can switch modes, using natural language to set the strategy and programming language to execute the tactics, is what allows them to act as a cohesive team rather than just a calculator.
It really changes how we think about autonomous task solving. We usually think automation means removing the conversation. Just push the button and it happens.
Right.
This paper argues that to automate complexity, you actually need more conversation, just simulated conversation.
That's the paradigm shift. The interaction facilitates the solution. You can't reach the solution without the dialogue.
So if I'm listening to this and I'm a software engineer or maybe I manage a dev team, why should I care about this specific paper? Is ChatDev going to replace my team next week?
Next week,
Yeah.
no. The complexity these agents can handle is still growing, but it points to a future where the role of the human developer changes drastically.
How so?
Right now, developers spend a lot of time being the glue. They translate the project manager's requirements into code. They translate the quality assurance's bug report into a fix.
Humans are the chat chain currently. We're the ones running between the rooms.
Exactly. We are the chat chain. We are the ones ensuring the architect speaks to the builder. But if frameworks like ChatDev mature, that coordination burden moves to the AI.
So the human moves up a level.
You become the client. You set the high-level goal in the prompt. Build me a platform that does X, Y, and Z. And the ChatDev agents spin up. They negotiate the details, write the code, critique each other, fix the bugs, and deliver the executable.
It moves us from human in the loop to human on the loop. You're watching the process, maybe intervening if the dehallucination fails, but you aren't doing the heavy lifting.
And that solves the technical inconsistencies we started with. Because the agents share the context perfectly through their logs, you don't have that issue of the lost blueprint.
It's compelling. It